Ladies and gentlemen, empathy is the new evil in this country. That's right. I have diagnosed the culprit of the Democratic destruction of our nation's democracy. No testing needed. Forget the opinions of the left and their liberal-minded and slanted studies. Give me more and more of it. While I feel sorry for myself is the way in the movement of today's Democratic Party. And if elected, Joe Biden will ensure and solidify that success is not achieved by hard work and dedication. No, it is because of something else or someone else as to why I cannot cut the mustard. Today, sit back. I'm going to say all the things you wish you could say and all the things the left will not. I'm Eric Wright, and you are listening to the Closet Conservative Podcast. Folks, I'm about to break loose and ultimately dismantle the lunacy of today's liberal mentality. If you have followed me in my show, you know that I cannot sit back idly by as our nation rots from the inside out. And who is to blame? None other than the lunatic liberals and their platforms and policies that have institutionalized irrational thinking and saying, it's okay to eke your way through life. Ladies and gentlemen, this backwards mentality pandered by the likes of Joe Biden and others on the left just churns my stomach. And in fact, it often keeps me awake at night. And why? It isn't because I care what a foddering, old, foolish 47-year-old politician thinks. No, it is because what he and his communistic circles feed off of and violently vomit all over the United States masses. So what is empathy? Well, like many of you, to empathize is to consider the thoughts and feelings of others, and in turn, constructively look for considerations and behavior to correct a circumstance. What is not empathy, ladies and gentlemen? Well, simply everything the left is pushing for the position of our nation. You know, if you sit back and truly listen to the thoughts and feelings of all members of the left, local, state, and federal candidates, they are all offering the same thing. And what is that? It isn't that it's your fault where you are and where you come from or how you have allowed those circumstances to affect or influence your life. Instead, it is your sex, your color, your creed, who you laid down with and who you love, or your community that has defined your standing in society. Forget the fact that none of this genuinely influences your ability and God-given potential, unless, of course, you allow it. But never mind any of that. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, AOC, and Joe Biden will wipe away all those burdens and tears and make all the successful people in this country pay your way through life. Ladies and gentlemen, honestly think about this. Close your eyes and think back to when you were small. And if you are a product of a humble, honest family, then you know what I'm getting ready to ask of you. When you did wrong, you faced a consequence, a punishment of some sort, light or a lot. You knew that every negative outcome, your fault or not, warranted a reaction. And we all know that often that consequence was not pleasant. But what about those who didn't come from a home full of love and respect? What happens to those people? Some may consider them lost souls, products of a failed upbringing. No, that isn't the case of all. In fact, it's just the opposite. And who is to blame? Well, the left and their institutionalized empathy, explicitly illustrated in our nation's educational system, are 100% blame for this. The mantra of everyone gets a trophy, and we cannot leave someone out has been detrimental to all within our democracy. For far too long, we have allowed our country to stink of socialistic ideals, ever before changing how we act, how we think, and how we perceive others for their failures. As our religious doors remain closed at the hands of liberal COVID-19 science, those who believe in accountability and repentance are silenced. The goal is to allow the Democratic Party dogma to pander their desperate filth among America. dismantling their garbage disposal policies that, in effect, discriminate against those who pull themselves up every day by their bootstraps and put on a positive posture before themselves, their families, and their communities. I don't know about you, but America has an addiction problem. No, it isn't battling alcohol or drugs. It is our nation's society's sickness. We are rotting from the inside out, and for many, we cannot or refuse to see the flesh pulling away from the bones of our freedom. Now, I know there are liberals listening today that are just jumping at the bit to jolt and interject their thoughts, and I welcome that. For a generation, the left has attempted to dismantle the very principles of our democracy, a nation founded on God and goals, ladies and gentlemen. And now we are to apologize for our faith and our foundations that demand the very best of someone and every single member of our society. We have become victim to feeling so sorry for others and ourselves that we have lost all resemblance of hope and health. We no longer look at speaking to God and those who hold dear to our hearts. Instead, we look to replacing those cornerstones of faith and foundation and hopes of fame and fortune. And for those of you who don't believe anything that I'm saying, turn to a Pew Research polling data that showed that millennials will do absolutely anything for fame. And that's ahead of engaging in political participation, saving the environment, and over the health and well-being of others' lives, including that of their family. That's right. Money, greed, and the freebies of fame and fortune are more critical to our nation's youth than being an honest contributor to society. And where does this disease-ridden dogma originate? From the left, and the invasion of our nation's educational system and the perversions of foundations of faith. From the top down, America has lost her way, and we have allowed for wannabe peacemakers and policymakers that have one goal in mind. That's right, to rid and redo the conscience of American ideals. To feel sorry for one means not to make them meet you halfway. Now, it means to demand nothing and donate everything, from your savings account to your soul. For members of the left, you are to give and give freely, and all for the glory of their gluttony. I'm here to tell you that I and others in this nation have had enough. We've had enough 4 years ago, when we elected Donald Trump as president of the United States, and now, and purposefully, the Democratic Party and the lunatics of the left and the liberal media partners of mayhem have conspired to murder the genetic makeup of our union. You know, folks, these United States of America were founded under God and principle. Principles that didn't define who we were or where we came from. No, the founders of our great nation fled persecution, knew the dangers of an authoritarian government, and vowed never to live in a homeland where hopelessness halted progression. I'm sad to say that we have become that fear of our nation's founding fathers. But we're in an impasse. Which direction we take will very much come down to a simple ballot in 2 weeks. If you believe in a burdensome and overly oppressive government involvement in your life, then Joe Biden is your man. Checking your box for such a character should leave you questioning not only your standing as a person, but as a servant of humanity. We have become a nation of a weakened morality, ever wanting to please others, rather than living to the procedures and policies laid out to us by God and His governance. There is something remotely wrong with divvying out and not expecting a return. To continue to hold up when a simple helping hand will do. Society has longed to believe that God and others are to blame for their failures of humankind. But I'm here to tell you that placing a question mark where God put a period will leave you always looking for something more than what you can deliver and what is expected of you. In this nation, we are designed to do well, give it your best, and that should be enough. No, it isn't your genetic makeup that changed who you love. It wasn't your skin color as to why you didn't excel in school or get that job. It wasn't the alcohol or drugs that turned you into an addict. It was your life's choices and those decisions that allowed you to define you as a person, including you and your family for generations to come, as to where you currently are in your life. In a genuine democratic nation, the check has been written for your success. It is up to you to cash the check and make the deposit. But in a Biden-led Bolshevik communistic society laid out before our eyes up until November the 3rd, it isn't your money in the account to cover the cost of the check. But it could be. If you work hard, play by the rules, and take accountability for your actions, the world is your oyster. You see, that is the real reward of life. It isn't fame or fortune. It is faith, family, and the simple foundation of being known as a good person who should be the wholesome living principle. And no one, no political party or pandering politician can deliver that. Only you. This is Eric Wright, and you've been listening to the Closet Conservative Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to our podcast. Please remember to give a 5-star review and share our podcast with your friends. The Closet Conservative Podcast is a production of the Liberty Loft. Copyright The Liberty Loft, 2020. You can find more shows and information on our website, www.thelibertyloft.com, or any of our social media channels.